Hi, this is Greg Kilstrom. Welcome to Season 3 of the Agile World, where we discuss customer and employee experience, organizational and workforce transformation, and how business can adapt and continually improve in an agile age. The Agile World podcast is brought to you by TEKsystems, an industry leader in full-stack technology services, talent services, and real-world application. For more information, go to teksystems.com. To read more about the topics discussed in this show, you can go to my website at theagile.world and read my latest articles, or get a copy of my latest book, The Agile Workforce, now available on Amazon and other retailers. My name is Greg Kilstrom, and I'm the host of the Agile World podcast. Today we're going to talk about how to be more agile by learning from our experiences, both good and bad. While tales of wild success are what we often remember about business leaders and leading companies, failures, missteps, and missed opportunities are often better teachers. My guest today has had his share of both success and, well, let's just say less successful efforts, but has had the wisdom and perseverance to push through setbacks to achieve some great things. I'd like to welcome Jerry Abiog, co-founder and CMO at Standard Insights. First, Jerry, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you do at Standard Insights?
Yeah, hey Greg, thanks for having me on. So a little bit about myself, my background. My name is Jerry Abiog. I'm a co-founder and CMO of Standard Insights. We're a startup, roughly 2.5 years old, and what we do is we help businesses prioritize and execute data-driven omni-channel campaigns. And why is this important, Greg? Well, it helps one's business, regardless of vertical, target the right person with the right product or service at the right time, helping drive both top and bottom line growth. And this is more important now than ever because it'll help one's business become competitive in a data driven world with marketing precision using artificial intelligence.
Wonderful. Well, glad to have you on the show. So first, I'd like to commend you on your openness and willingness to admit that there's been some failures in the past, but to use it as a way to find success in the present. I think that's a great thing to be able to do. So what do you think inspired you to embrace the good along with the bad in order to be successful?
Going back to prior to launching Standard Insights, I had my own business development company where I help software companies with sales and marketing initiatives. And along the way, I've had successful clients with exits. And the one client, as they say, you learn from failure, was one of my clients was an utter bust. It was about 4 or 5 years ago. It was my first go around working with an AI company, and Greg was a total failure. This company had close to three quarters, if not almost $1 million worth of funding, and we absolutely achieved nothing. I mean, it just fell flat. No clients and just an utter failure. But two things that I learned at that time that I guess kept me going to Standard Insights was that there was something bubbling beneath the surface with artificial intelligence and AI driven applications. And there are some studies out there that indicate, I think there was a study put out by Statista late last year, that AI in a short 5 years could be close to a $500 billion. That's what it's going to amount to, right? With $500 billion industry. So that was number one thing that I learned during this failure. And number two, regardless of what you do, it's always has to be about your customers and not the bells and whistles of your product or platform.
Yeah, that's great, and I think it is. To your point, I mean, there's always not only a learning opportunity, but sometimes I think when you're mildly successful, you can get kind of comfortable with the status quo, and I think sometimes needing to find a better solution and stuff can push you a bit further. So that's great that you were able to find something there. So how would you encourage others to take this, what I would call a positive approach, and not be afraid to look into some difficult moments and decisions to find something better or different, or even just something brand new?
Yeah, I think, Greg, that's a great question. But I think honestly, it has to come from within, and it has to come in within prior to your work environment. And what does that mean? Well, For myself, I'm always looking at challenges outside of work that make me uncomfortable, and how do I, deal with that. So I'm in my late 40s. Over the course of my adult life, I've done Ironmans, I've done ultras, and just recently, a few years back, I got my blue belt in jiu-jitsu, which is not an easy
Oh wow.
task considering
Yeah.
that I'm going up against guys in their mid 20s. I mean, yeah, they're my friends, but there's a difference when there's a 20-year age gap, and they're literally trying, even though in a friendly way, they're trying to get you to tap out. So it's
Yeah.
even though these are hobbies and in a friendly way, that kind of help for me anyway, develop my mindset. And when you're developing a hardened mindset or uncomfortable mindset outside of work in your daily life, chances are that'll translate into your work life or career. So I think that sums it up for me.
Yeah. So, do you have any advice for how to look for the right things to improve and evaluate versus discard? I mean, I know it's kind of hard to say, but what? How do you look at things like that? Because I mean, given this is the agile world, and I talk a lot about um, improving and continuous improvement and things like that. I mean, sometimes it just takes a matter of improving things, and sometimes it just takes hey, we're on the wrong path. We need a serious course correction. How do you evaluate things like that?
So a couple things to your point, continuous improvement. That's actually on our website. So if you go to standardinsights.io and the about section, you'll see the four co-founders, and right underneath there, there's a blurb on Kaizen, continuous improvement each and every day. Whether it's us, the co-founders, or all the way down to the to the interns that we're bringing on board to teach about AI. So it's always about learning each and every day. I mean, for myself, since I'm a co-founder of an AI software company, I'm always reading articles on artificial intelligence, whether they're directly related to what I'm doing or otherwise, just to learn. I'm always, listening to leadership podcasts. So it's always being open to learning each and every day, whether it's directly correlated to what you're currently doing, or even if it isn't. Always getting another perspective on things.
Yeah, no, that's great. How would you define your measure of success? Given the idea that not everything that anyone does is going to be perfect, and even someone on a streak of success may have some missteps away along the way. What's how do you measure success in a environment like that?
So for us, myself and the co-founders, our success is not determined but by what we set internally, but what our customers and clients say about us. That's really what drives our success and how we improve things. And mind you, things aren't always going to be perfect. I mean, they never are. But as long as you're open and honest about it with your clients, um, then everything should be, okay. Open and honest communication, and always think about them first.
Yeah, that makes
Because if
sense.
you're thinking about them first, chances are you'll be successful.
Yeah. Okay. So let's switch gears here a little bit and talk about your company. Standard Insights is tackling some issues head on that many companies are facing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Can you talk a little bit about your artificial intelligence approach and how you help businesses?
Yeah. So my intro in the beginning. So we're an AI service growth marketing platform that helps companies prioritize and execute data-driven campaigns across many verticals. So when we first launched 2.5 years ago, we started off in the e-commerce vertical. Two things: they were the early adopters of artificial intelligence, and we wanted something that was a little bit easier to get into. And as we progressed, we expanded to other verticals: finance, brick and mortar, and last year at this time, to restaurants. So we actually created an AI driven digital menu last year for restaurants. And two reasons why we did this: one of our co founders actually owns a restaurant, And number two, one of our competitor or one McDonald's had bought one of our competitors. So when we saw that,
Mm.
it's like, okay, if McDonald's is doing something, maybe it's time to get on, get on board. But to be honest, Greg, that failed last summer. Just a couple things. The maybe we were a little bit too far ahead of the game, and to be honest, why it failed, restaurants weren't ready, or the restaurant patrons weren't ready to start ordering menu items off their phone. However, so we put
Gotcha.
that in the garage. However, when COVID came in March, we pulled it out of the garage, retweaked it, and we rebranded it into its own identity. So we took that from Standard Insights, the AI-driven digital menu, and we rebranded it to iOrder dot menu. So it's all under the same company umbrella, if you will, but now iOrder dot menu or AI driven digital menu has its own identity. So that's some of the things that we're doing right now. So we're always looking forward, not just what's in front of us. What's that saying? Can't see the forest because of the trees. So we're always
Right.
looking far out, whether it's restaurants, whether it's other verticals. Just to give you an example, one of our co-founders is an MD. So now, after doing some research, hospitals and physician clinics, they don't always do a great job of marketing themselves, right? So any company that wants relevant, data-driven communication to drive additional growth, we're looking at those verticals and always looking down the road and how we can help our business grow and help our clients as well.
That's great. Yeah, and I mean that's some great examples of being able to be nimble and adjust as needed based on performance. So you know you talked a bit about AI, not only just then, but earlier on. What is it about AI in particular that holds particular promise for companies in this time, and what drew you to using it in your product?
Yeah, so regardless of vertical, you have to know what your customers are going to do or what they're predicted to buy. Whether it's in e-commerce, and if you're selling sunglasses online and you've got 100 products, what is Greg predicted to buy, what is Jared predicted to buy, or you take it to restaurants with menu items. Say a restaurant has 20 menu items and you have 2,000 customers doing takeout, on your restaurant or curbside. What of those 2,000 customers, what menu items are they predicted to buy or order, right? So, and it goes beyond knowing what they're likely to do, but then you have to execute, because it's all about execution. I mean, you could have all the knowledge in your head what Greg's likely to buy or what Jerry's likely to buy, but if there's no execution, then that data is really worthless. And we're seeing an example of this, what's going on with the pandemic. There are people that side with data, and there are people that don't side with data. And it's not always easy, Greg, because we're all humans and we always do what makes us feel good, even though if it goes against the grain or goes against what data says. So I like to draw an example of if you have a bad health scores and the doctor's telling you, hey, you need to eat healthier and you need to exercise. But once the alarm clock goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know that getting up to do a workout is better for you, but staying in bed makes you feel better, even though the
Right.
data says otherwise, right? Or eating that getting a cheeseburger with fries, or maybe instead getting a cheeseburger with salad. That salad doesn't always make us feel better, right? The fries do. So it's never. We live in a funky time right now, but it's never cut and dry, man. There's a lot of middle gray areas to it. But the more that we can help people, like, hey, you really got, I know it's tough, it's not always easy to focus on what the data says, the better they'll be, in the long run. If you look at our website, standardinsights.io, the first thing that it says in the middle is like, hey, are you curious to see what improving your your company's data literacy will do to fuel growth. So it's always going to be about the data, and if the more you can understand that, the better you're going to win against your competitors that don't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, doing a lot of work for the restaurant industry. You mentioned one of your partners actually owns a restaurant. How do you think that industry will evolve and recover from the pandemic? And even to broaden it a bit, will business look the same again, or is our industries like restaurants, going to forever change?
I think they're going to be forever changed. I was in a virtual restaurant trade show a few weeks back, and restaurants are notorious for poo-pooing technology.
Yeah,
And while talking to restaurant owners last year, okay, hey, this looks great, this looks cool. It was something in their 3 to 4 year roadmap. But now, because of COVID, it's shrunk it down. Now it's under 3 to 4 month roadmap. And not only restaurants, industries across the board, they had to, realize, hey, we've got to do something to, the digitization, right? It's a popular term nowadays, because of
yeah,
COVID. Now, to your point, yeah, restaurants will be changed forever. Yes, there are a lot of, just like with vaccines, there are probably over 1,000 companies filing patents for vaccines. Likewise, the same things for restaurants and digital menus, right? All these restaurants, big and small, had to update their website so customers can now order online. But we take it a step, I mean, that's a great start, but we take it a step further. And if you go to our website, iorder.menu, we go beyond other digital menu companies that simply upload your menu and attach a payment gateway. We make your menu smarter. So when our clients, they're going to be ahead of the ball game versus the other normal digital menus. So it's always looking ahead, looking at what the data says and acting from there. I mean, it's
right,
like
right.
we're in football season now. It's like if you know the other team is going to throw a pass, why would you set up a run defense?
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
So instead of flying blind, you know what the other person, in this case, your customer, is likely to do, is likely to order, then acting on that.
yeah, yeah. No, that's great. Well, one last question before we wrap up. You originally spent several years in the corporate world, then struck out on your own to start several companies. There's currently a lot of people who have had salaried full time positions that are now finding themselves laid off, furloughed, or otherwise out of work and are considering making a move to entrepreneurship. What advice would you have for someone who's considering making the same move you took several years ago?
I think number one is to believe in yourself. And number two, if you know that something's about to happen, say the axe is going to fall, man, start setting yourself up before that happens, right? So I did this 10 years ago, and it's hard to balance both things when you didn't. Smartphones just barely came into existence 10 years ago, but literally nowadays, if you're working for a corporation and you want to get out and you're in the office or whatever that may be, I mean, you have a little mini computer in your smartphone.
Yeah. Hey, you there? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I can hear. I can hear you now. Yeah, no worries. Do you want to just? You can pick up from wherever.
Yeah, okay. So your number one is to believe in yourself, right? And number two, if you know something negative is going to happen with your company, don't wait until the last minute until it happens. Start preparing beforehand. I mean, you have a wealth of information in your pocket via your smartphone that you can start. building your business. When I did this 10 years ago, I didn't have that opportunity. First, social media was at its infancy, and number two, smartphones was at its infancy. So now, I mean, you can do two things simultaneously: work at your current job, and then simultaneously prepare for the inevitable by, okay, I know something is about to happen, but at least with your smartphone, if you're busy doing other stuff, you can start building your brand and your company, right from your pocket.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Well, Jerry, thanks so much for joining the show. For those listening, what's the best way for them to keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, Greg. So, number one, people can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Jerry Abiog at Standard Insights. I'm the only one there. Or they can shoot me an email at Jerry, Jerry, at standardinsights.io, all spelled out. Or they can go to one of our two websites, standardinsights.io. Or if you're a restaurant or in the hospitality space, go to iorder.menu. And in both sites, halfway through the first page, there'll be a book a demo, book a conversation button that you could, set up a meeting. And would love to chat with you.
Great. Well, again, I'd like to thank Jerry Abiog, co-founder and CMO at Standard Insights, for joining the show. Thanks for listening to the Agile World with Greg Kihlstrom. See you next week. Thanks again for listening to the Agile World podcast, brought to you by Tech Systems. I'm your host, Greg Kihlstrom. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to subscribe on your podcast channel of choice and leave us a rating so that others can find the show more easily. You can learn more and get a copy of my latest book, The Agile Workforce, from my website at theagile.world.